So you're thinking about buying a home in Aledo, Texas, but before you pull that trigger, you want to know everything there is to know about Aledo. You want to know the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, and everything in between. Well, good for you. That is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to go over the pros and cons of living in Aledo and give you a little bit of history of the town too before we get started. Aledo actually is the oldest city in Parker County. It got its name in 1882 when the first post office was built, and it remained a relatively unknown small town outside of the DFW Metroplex until the mid-1990s, when its economic development really exploded because of the growth of the Fort Worth side of the Metroplex expanding west. So population is around 6,000, and the primary economic growth driver has been the school district, Aledo ISD, which has been the major draw for the Aledo area and the surrounding cities. Now, if this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Aledo, Texas, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you can be kept up to date with what's going on in the Aledo market. My name's Jared with Living in Aledo, Texas, and I get calls and texts every day from people just like you who are looking to make their move to the Aledo area, and I love it. So whether you're thinking about moving next week or next year, all my contact information is in the description below. Feel free to reach out however you like, and I'm looking forward to making your move as smooth as possible. Now, before we get started, I want to give you a brief overview of what to expect. We're going to go over the pros and the cons. Like I said, we have 5 pros and we have 5 cons. We're going to start out with talking about the pros. You've got the schools, you've got the location, you've got housing options, you've got almost no crime, and then you have a ton of outdoor activities. I'm even going to throw a surprise pro number 6 in there for you. If you're not from Texas, you're going to want to check that one out and stick around. There's a kind of a not great side to everywhere that you could choose to live. So I am going to cover some of the things that you should and do want to know about before you decide that Aledo is the next best place for your family. All right, well, let's kick this off with reason number 1 that people move to Aledo is the school district. Aledo Independent School District is a highly rated, really well-performing school district in the state of Texas and has been that way for a long time. That is a major draw for people moving to the Aledo area. So I want to go over some of the schools, some of the ratings, and some of the things that you might want to know if you're considering Aledo schools for your kids. So first off, there are 10 schools in Aledo. There are 6 elementary schools, there are 2 middle schools, and there are 2 high schools. But really there's like 1 high school and there's 1 9th grade campus, but if you're looking online, they're typically going to classify that 9th grade campus as a high school. The overall ratings, test scores in college prep are really, really high. And the overall school district gets an A rating from niche.com. So if you're looking at the test scores across the board, every single school in Aledo ISD has an 8, a 9, or a 10 out of 10. So really high performing test scores from these students. And then the college readiness from Aledo High School is a 10 out of 10. So that's really important. I wanted to focus on test scores and college prep. We'll touch on it in a minute, but some of these online websites will give an overall rating where they average different things together and can sometimes pull down a really high performing school based on sometimes like a lack of student advancement. But if your scores are already as high as they can be, you're not going to see a big advancement. So that's something to note. But when it comes to graduation rate, they're almost 99%. So it's like 98.6% graduation rate from the high school. And then SAT and ACT scores. The average SAT score that was compiled that we got was 1230. So that is above average. 1200 will let you apply to the vast majority of colleges and be competitive at a lot of them. And then the ACT score is 27. That's the average ACT score from Aledo students. Also a good bit above average, like a few points, not just like 1 point. So that's really good to know. And then for anyone who might be interested, the colleges, like the top colleges that these students are interested in, if you want to know where, what your kids' friends, where they're going to be going and trying to get your kid to go, they're mostly Texas-based schools. So keeping that Texas pride strong out in Aledo ISD. But you have the first one is Texas A&M. My brother was an Aggie. You have Texas Tech is number 2. You have the University of Texas in Austin. All my cousins are Longhorns, and then my brother, who is an Aggie, then got a master's degree from UT Austin. Then you have TCU, so Texas Christian University, just down the road in Fort Worth. My sister has a bachelor's from TCU. My wife has a bachelor's from TCU and a doctorate from TCU. So TCU is a great school as well. And then you have to get all the way to number 5 before you get to a school outside of Texas that these students are interested in, which is the University of Oklahoma, so right across the border. This would not be a complete video if I did not touch on extracurriculars at Aledo ISD. And the number 1 extracurricular that we are known for is our football program. So there are also like all the other sports, so we don't want to forget those, but Aledo has won 12 state championships for football in multiple size classifications as they've been moving up that classification. But it's not the only state championship sport we have. We've won multiple softball state championships, baseball, and golf state championships. So there's a wide variety of high-performing sports in the Aledo area. And then you have all your other stuff. Notably, they have a pretty good band. My wife was a band kid when she was in Aledo. She was actually the drum major. So her dad called her Queen of the Nerds. It was great. But a really good band program. I think they might still have the same like band director that they had when she was there. And that's not all they have, but they have FFA, they have the other end of the spectrum, robotics club, they have dance and cheer, a bunch of other stuff. And if you want to know if they have something that your kid's interested in, you should just go to their website at aledoisd.org so you can see what all is available if you're considering Aledo ISD for you and your kids. Now, I mentioned school ratings, and I gave you specific ratings on specific classifications that are most important to most people. Greatschools.org and niche.com are great places to go if you are looking to do a little more research. One important thing to note on greatschools.org is that overall score they give a school is not just like the performance of the school. So dig in, make sure you're looking at ratings that are important to you as you are, vetting schools and determining where you might want to send your kids. Okay, pro number 2 is location, location, location. That's the most important thing in real estate. And you are, I think, the best situated to be the best suburb for the Fort Worth side of the DFW Metroplex. Now, if you are officing or working in Dallas, this is not going to hold true. That drive is just going to be too long. But if you are working in or around the Fort Worth area, location is superb. You're 20-25 minutes from downtown Fort Worth. And there's lots of jobs on the west side of downtown or, to the south, closer to the highway. So you have a ton of major employers. You have Lockheed, you have the Joint Reserve Base if you're a pilot or in the military. TCU is a big employer. And then you have the hospital district, multiple hospitals, tons of outpatient locations. And most notably, Cook Children's Hospital, world renowned for its care for children and specialties like there's heart surgeries that go on, all sorts of stuff that TCU is known for. People fly from all over the world to bring their children to to Cook Children's, not TCU. TCU provides a lot of the nurses for Cook Children's, but people fly from all over the world to bring their kids to Cook Children's to make sure they have the best care for their kids. So that's great. And then for those of you who travel for work, the DFW airport is not far away. It is going to be about a 45, maybe a 50-minute drive, and you're going to want to take toll roads if you're going during morning or afternoon traffic. But it's a really easily achievable drive. I oftentimes schedule my flights for kind of those 10:30 or 11 a.m. departure times because that's what I like. And we leave. I'm one of those people, I have to get to the airport early. My wife hates it. People make fun of me, but I'm like, I want to be at the airport at least 2 hours early. So we're leaving at 8. We're there by 9. for a flight at 11, and that is not hard to do even in that window of rush hour traffic. Okay, moving on to pro number 3, you have housing and growth. So there's lots and lots of new housing developments going in. You have Walsh Ranch, you have Parks of Aledo, you have Morningstar, and then you have neighborhoods that are not even like offering homes for sale yet. You have Dean Ranch, Kelly Ranch, Veal Ranch, and those are all single family stuff. You have Bear Creek on the south side, Maravilla Estates for larger lots for new construction. And then you have some multifamily and commercial use developments that are slated to begin in the next couple of years. You have Beggs Ranch and Dean's Ranch, and then Walsh Ranch is going to build out some commercial and some multifamily as well. And now you might be saying, Jared, like, what if I don't want one of these new homes where, unfortunately, a lot of times they kind of scrape everything. You don't have any mature trees. You might be, if you're not in one of the neighborhoods that's on large lots, you're kind of like, my wife says you don't have any elbow room is kind of the way we describe it between neighbors. Now those homes, those neighborhoods have a lot to offer, don't get me wrong, they're great. Sometimes that's not what you want. Sometimes you want a more established neighborhood, you want the mature trees, you want the 30, 40, 50 foot oak trees that you cannot get in a new construction neighborhood. So if that's what you're looking for, there's also lots of options in the existing neighborhoods with bigger homes and bigger lots. I live in McDavid Estates. That is kind of I want to say like the old school premier neighborhood. Like it's not premier anymore, but everyone knows the name of McDavid Estates because it was one of the original developments in the Aledo area at least. You have Deer Creek, you have McDavid Southwest, McDavid Springs, you have Lakes of Aledo is a gated community, so is Stone Creek Farms, which is right across the street from my neighborhood. So I have, clients or friends in most of these neighborhoods, and there's just a lot of really good options depending on what you're looking for, where you want to be, and what your price point is. So the variety and options of the housing types is a really big plus for the Aledo area as well. Okay, pro number 4 might be the shortest one. It's the incredibly low crime. I could stop right there, but I'll give you a few more details on that. According to neighborhoodscout.com, violent crime in Aledo is 7 times less than Fort Worth. And Fort Worth is right around average for the state of Texas. So that breaks down to, your chance of being a victim of violent crime is 1 in 1,466. In Fort Worth, your chance of being a victim of violent crime is 1 in 201. So significantly different. If you're looking for safe, Aledo strongly checks that box. And then you're thinking, okay, well, what about not just violent crime? What about like property crime, breaking into cars, breaking into houses, stuff like that? You are still 4 times less likely to experience that type of crime in the Aledo area. So your chance of that is 1 in 147. And this kind of stuff could even just be like we've had in our neighborhood, we've had kids leave their bikes out overnight. And we have these big driveways, 1 acre lots. Their bike is left on the street. And so I hate to say it, but that's like one of the easiest ways for someone to steal your stuff is you leave it out overnight. So fortunately, my kids are young enough that nobody wants their scooters and their little cars that they leave out, but we're gonna have to work on that. But that all to say, if you are worried about crime, Aledo is a place that you do not need to worry. Yes, crime can happen anywhere, but you are statistically incredibly less likely to experience any sort of crime in Aledo over most of the Fort Worth area. Okay, now for you outdoor enthusiasts, there is so much to offer in and around Aledo. So Aledo is positioned close to a lot of other areas, and there's a number of golf courses. You have Split Rail, Squaw Creek, Oast Ranch. Those are all right in the Aledo area. You have Leonard Golf Links, which is really like a driving range. I drive past it in my way to Fort Worth whenever I drive into Fort Worth. You have Benbrook, which is a city just to the east, it's southwest of Fort Worth. They have a par 3 and a driving range. And then you have a Whitestone Golf Club, which is also south of the Benbrook area. Now for those of you who are gun people, we also have a couple of outdoor gun ranges. We have Defender Outdoors, where you can do trap, skeet, sporting clays, and some other tournaments and stuff. And then you have Fort Worth Trap and Skeet, which is just trap and skeet. Unfortunately, they do not have sporting clays there. Now you might be thinking, well, what's this big deal about gun ranges? If you are moving to the Aledo area from a place that maybe you didn't get to experience and enjoy gun culture, let me know. I will take you shooting. Got a couple of shotguns. That's the fun stuff. Going and shooting some trap and skeet. It's fun, it's not terribly difficult, and it's way easier to pick up than golf. I gotta tell you, I am not a good golfer, but someone who, and it's hard to like really enjoy golf when you're not a good golfer, right? The cool thing about shooting sports is you don't have to be really good to enjoy it. It's still fun to just shoot a gun. So if you're not into guns, don't worry about it. There's still other stuff to do. Now there's also there's a couple of lakes that are within 15 or 20 minutes for any boaters or fishermen that are interested. You've got Lake Weatherford and Benbrook Lake. Those are the two closest. And then you've got some a little further out, 30, 45 minutes. You've got some over in the Arlington Grand Prairie area, and you can go out a bunch of directions, but those are the closest. Hiking, biking, and outdoor trails. You have some trailheads around Lake Weatherford. You have mountain biking and hiking trails in parks of Aledo. And then you have Town Creek hike and bike trail over in the Weatherford area as well. So you can even go to Mineral Wells and go to the Lake Mineral Wells State Park, which that's about a 30-minute drive from Aledo. So a really easy day trip, or even a half-day trip if you just wanted to jet in and out for an afternoon if you've got small kids and want to work around nap times. So a lot of stuff to do outside in and around Aledo for sporters, hikers, golfers, whatever you want to do, we got something for you. Okay, so my last and final pro number 6 for this list. I just couldn't do this video and this list without including HEB. For those of you who are not from Texas and are not familiar, HEB is a Texas-based grocery store, started in South Texas. It is amazing, I love it. And unfortunately, we don't have a Buc-ee's for me to add to the list, but if they do, I'll redo the video just to add Buc-ee's. Now, if you're coming from out of the state or from a part of the state where you don't have an HEB, if you come and visit, one of the things I actually had one of my clients mention when they were coming in to visit, they're like, you know what, Jared? We had a friend tell us, a friend in real estate tell us, you need to go to the local grocery store to really see what kind of people live in the area. So they took their trip to HEB after I hyped it up, and they were laughing at me, but they were like, Jared, this is awesome, we love it. It's a Texas favorite, HEB really is, so the prices are reasonable. Store brands have a lot of store brands, and they're high quality, good ingredients. They also carry a lot of organic stuff. You can also get grass-fed meats, which is really important to me and my family as we're moving towards eating healthier, whole foods, no additives, no like refined sugars or fake stuff. HEB does really allow us to eat like that without having to go to like the big specialty whole food type stuff, which you have to go to Fort Worth if you want to go to Whole Foods. But HEB, you can eat really, really clean at HEB. And then they also have a full service pharmacy, and they have a big like a steak and seafood counter where you can get like fresh cut steaks and then fresh seafood as well. So HEB is awesome. If you've never been, you got to check it out. When you come look at homes, HEB is something you're gonna have to stop at and just check it out. I mean, it's a grocery store. It's not insane, but it's just really high quality. They always have really great, nice people working there. You can do kind of that, like all the grocery stores, the pickup. They got a really efficient pickup system and a good app. So I really enjoy it. That used to be a Saturday morning activity where I'd take our boys, give my wife a break, and I do the grocery shopping. So HEB's pretty great. Okay, so as much as I hate to say anything negative about my beloved Aledo, no place is perfect, and I'm gonna have to go over my list of cons with you. So some of these might have kind of a double edge to them, but really there are some things that you should know about if you are considering moving to the Aledo area. So The first thing is really, it's the price point. So Aledo is gonna be a more expensive location to live in. The median price point for the Aledo, the city, is $537,000. And then the median price point for Aledo ISD as a whole, so Aledo ISD covers a much larger area than just the city of Aledo, is $580,000. And median is oftentimes the best number to use, so you kind of get a good idea of where the majority of homes fall. But if we want to look at the average is actually $80,000 to $100,000 more than that. So in reality, you could be looking anywhere from $540,000 to $700,000 as your expected normal range of homes you're going to be looking at. And that is actual sold data from all of 2023. I ran those numbers myself. That's not pulling it off some demographic website. I actually was looking at one and it's told me the median price in Aledo was $362,000. So be careful where you're getting your information from. The average price point in Aledo is absolutely not $362,000. It is, in reality, you're gonna fall somewhere between like $540,000 and $700,000, which is important to know. If you're looking for places to live, you need to know if the location you're looking is in your budget, and maybe not all of Aledo is gonna be in your budget. Maybe you are gonna have to look at a certain price point in a neighborhood that maybe doesn't have everything you want, but you want to be in Aledo for the schools for your kids. And then for those of you interested, the most expensive home that sold on MLS, which is our multiple listing service, in 2023 was $2,225,000. There were 4 total homes that sold for $2 million or more in the Aledo area last year. And there might have been homes that sold for a little bit more, but if they were sold off MLS, and because Texas is a non-disclosure state, we don't have access to that information, which is a really good benefit for those of you who are in Texas. Your sales price is not public information after you purchase a home. So that is con number 1, though, is just the price point. Okay, con number 2 is actually related to pro number 2, and that's the large amount of new development that's going on. So not everyone loves seeing that, especially people who've been in Aledo for a really long time and they've seen Aledo grow and grow and grow. Some people are not super excited about that. It is good for the economy, but I'll be honest, it's not great for traffic. I live kind of on the west side of Aledo, and I know that as these developments continue to grow more on the east side, my traffic is gonna get heavier and heavier when I'm going into the Fort Worth area. That's gonna be years before that actually becomes a real issue. Traffic is not bad at all right now, but it's something to be aware of, that there is a large amount of development, which means more people will be coming. It means traffic will be increasing. And then one of the other things that is of note is that, and if you're in one of these developments, it won't matter to you, but a lot of these developments are going in and they will be serviced, the schools will service them from Aledo. So they'll fall under Aledo ISD, and they'll pay Aledo ISD taxes. And they'll have an Aledo mailing address. For the post office, you'll write Aledo. But they're actually not being approved, governed, or overseen by Aledo, the city, and the government of Aledo. Most of them, or a lot of them, are, they're in land that was unincorporated, and they're being annexed by Fort Worth. And then they're not really always paying like Fort Worth city taxes, but they're paying a PID or a MUD, which are kind of like tax overlays, like they're an additional tax that they pay on that their land or their home that they own for the utilities that were brought in. So that's something important to note, specifically about, it's already happened with Walsh Ranch and Morningstar. Both of those communities, their tax rate is a little bit higher than other areas because they're paying, I can't remember, it's either a PID or a MUD. If you want to know what those are, message me. But they're essentially you're paying for the utilities that the Fort Worth brought into those neighborhoods because Aledo didn't do it. So that's one thing to note. That's not awesome. If you are looking for a more rural, more small town feel, you're going to want to go 20-30 minutes west to Brock, which also has a highly rated school district. And a lot of people jokingly say that Brock is the Aledo of 20 years ago. So it's the current Aledo from 20 years ago. So it's just getting a little bit further out. That's kind of a stretch to drive to Fort Worth from Brock every day if you're gonna work downtown. If you work from home, it's awesome, but you know, if you really want that small town feel without a lot of the development, and you want less going on, Brock's gonna be your next best bet. Okay, con number 3, and I've mentioned this on some other videos, and I'm sure it will come up again, is the lack of like a nightlife or fancy dining or like date night style outings in the Aledo area. To be honest, the vast majority of the date nights me and my wife take, we go into Fort Worth. Oftentimes we're going to the Clear Fork area, which has some nice high-end dining. It has one of my favorite steakhouses. It has some awesome Thai food. And if you want to do some high-end shopping, you can do some nice shopping over there as well. So that's Clear Fork. That's where I would recommend. Aledo does have some good restaurants. Don't get me wrong. It's not that there's no good food. It's just kind of the nightlife and fancy high-end dining is something that's lacking in a lot of Parker County, really. But in Aledo, you're close enough to still head out to Fort Worth. It's an easy drive and plenty to choose from. Okay, I really hope I don't turn you off with con number 4. This might oog some of you out, but there really is a higher volume and variety of bugs, critters, and animals that you'll experience and see out in the Aledo area. So while I wouldn't say that Aledo is truly rural, it's not all farmland, it is surrounded by farmland, pastures, woods, and it's built in and around that stuff. So while Aledo is a suburb of Fort Worth, you don't think of suburbs as being rural, this is kind of like a rural suburb, which, you know, I hate to say it, but like I'd never seen a scorpion in real life until I moved out to Parker County. So I've had friends in a new residential development and they have seen 3 scorpions in their home. These are not big scorpions that you're, you know, from the Mummy. They're not like as big as your hand. Honestly, they're like this big. They're tiny. They look like a large wolf spider, if you know what those are. Wolf spiders are harmless, but you're gonna see more spiders out and about. You're gonna see more bugs, beetles. I mean, my kids love it. They're finding these millipedes and like crawling on their fingers and pulling worms out of the ground. Snakes, you know, I was running in my neighborhood and kind of the early morning hours, the sun wasn't quite up yet, and I almost stepped on a dead snake in the road. So that I think I almost pulled a muscle. I like reacted so hard. But you're gonna see more critters like that, and that's gonna come with living out and about with more space where these critters are still living. Now that's not just a con. You're gonna see a lot of deer. We have deer that like run through our neighborhood. I've been showing homes in the middle of the day, and you'll see sometimes in these larger lots, sometimes you'll see deer laying in people's front yards under trees. So that's really cool. And that's what I would say is, that's kind of the pro of it, is you see some cool wildlife, but the negative really is you're gonna have more bugs, more critters, and more stuff like that to deal with than you might otherwise normally see. And then, the newer homes you'll have less, the older homes you might have a little bit more land, you're gonna have a little bit more. But that's something to be aware of. If you're like a super not bug person, you just need to be prepared for it or pay for, proper, pest preventive control. I have some companies I can recommend. We use it. My wife does not do bugs. So it should not deter you entirely, but it is something you should be aware of, that you could see some stuff that you might not be super familiar with. Okay, last but not least on the con list is my con number 5. And this is actually probably the hardest thing for me to get adjusted to, moving out of more central cities and moving out of Fort Worth, is like this general lack of options and conveniences that you just come to expect living in a big city. And I'll touch on those. So utilities. So most of Texas is open, which means you can use any electrical provider you want for your home electricity. You have Encore, which built out the infrastructure. There's an Encore charge on all your electric bills, no matter who you use, but you can shop and move around. There are parts of Aledo where the infrastructure was laid by a different company, and that company provides the electricity. So that's Tri-County Electric. So one, you might be stuck with only one electrical provider. I wouldn't be terribly worried about it. In those instances, typically like the state helps regulate those pricings, so you're not gonna like way overpay. They're not gonna gouge you. And then in these older neighborhoods, bigger lots, there's no gas. So gas is provided, in the cities, gas lines are ran by Atmos and you get gas through Atmos. In my neighborhood, there is no gas lines from Atmos. So if you want gas, you have to have a propane tank. I have a propane tank. There's a couple of options. You can buy one, you can lease one, you can bury it, you can have it above ground. But if a lot of these homes were built all electric, and if you like to cook with gas or you want a gas water heater, you're gonna have to use propane and you're not gonna have like a natural gas line from the city or anything like that. Now, internet. Internet is a big thing, especially in today's world. There's gonna be a lot of the older neighborhoods that don't have fiber lines. So they're gonna have maybe only one like dedicated hardline provider and really still, my neighborhood, the only way to get a hardline internet connection, so like a wired connection, was through AT&T. And I would really like to not use AT&T if I didn't have to. There are other options available, but they're typically using some sort of wireless. Like recently now, I guess you have like the mobile like phone providers will have hotspots, and those are getting pretty reliable and pretty fast. But the other options are like these, like they're not satellite dishes, I think they're like radio waves, but it's a company called Nextlink. But you have to have you put this big dish on your house, and it has like a direct line of sight, and I think it's radio waves. It's gonna be a little bit less reliable. It's not gonna work great in heavy rains. And it's more expensive to get high speeds. So AT&T, when I was in Fort Worth, I had fiber. And when I moved out to Aledo, I only had like 50 megabytes down, right? So I had like 1/20th the speed, and they charged me the same. So that was kind of like a gut punch I was super frustrated with. But for those of you who want high-speed internet, a private company is actually installing dedicated fiber lines throughout much of the unincorporated area of Aledo, all off FM5 and down. So a lot of these neighborhoods will have the option for fiber. They're currently digging holes in my neighborhood and running those lines as we speak. So that's great. And then this is kind of a goofy one, but this is one that I didn't even realize I took for granted, was having a dump. So in Tarrant County or Fort Worth, there's a number of locations that you could just take a truckload of stuff, show them your ID that you're a resident, you just drop it off. They were open after hours, they're open on the weekends, whenever you want. It was great. Well, in Parker County, there's the Parker County Convenience Center, and I jokingly tell my wife it is anything but convenient. It is open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays. So not only can I only go on a weekday, I can't even go at the beginning or end of my workday. If I want to take something, I have to go in the middle of my workday, which is super inconvenient. But to be fair, well, let me say this, and they also charge. So it's like $20 for a trailer load, $20 for a truck bed, something like that. I don't know, it's not ridiculous, but they do take some stuff for free. They take brush for free, they take metal stuff for free, and they take dead animals for free. The reason I know that is because I had a deer, a small buck, die in my backyard last year. My dog was going nuts, figured out there was a small buck, had jumped the fence, had hurt itself. We didn't know what to do. It eventually died from its injuries, but the dump section for these animals is actually mostly for cows who've died from maybe wild animal attacks, something like that. If an animal's been hit, it's on the side of the road, it's a place where you can dump it. It's kind of morbid, but they do take some stuff for free. That's nice. But the frustrating part is if you need to take something by there, you're gonna have to go in the middle of the workday. Okay, well, if you're still around, I've got a little something extra for you, a bonus at the end. But we just went over the 5 pros and the 5 cons of living in Aledo, and I gave you that 6th bonus pro of H-E-B, my favorite grocery store. So what I wanted to just touch on real quickly is buying right now. It is currently still a high interest rate environment, so homes can feel expensive on a monthly basis. But what we are seeing right now is that buyers who are in a position to buy are getting better deals from the seller. So you got to kind of think of there's 2 different parties that the buyer is dealing with when they're buying a home. They're trying to create a good purchase and sale agreement with the seller, and then they're having to create their financing with the bank. Can't do a whole lot about the bank financing because that's pretty set. Now, if you have a larger down payment, that's really going to help obviously bring that payment down because you're financing less. But where we are seeing, and I am specifically getting clients much better deals, is in the negotiations with the sellers. Sellers are being more negotiable, they're reducing their price, they're giving credits, and they're looking to make a deal. And so depending on your situation, even though interest rates right now are still like 7-ish%, they are down from last year in October, but you can get a pretty good deal, especially with builders. So even pre-owned homes, homeowners are being negotiable. Builders are doing a lot. On a home that my client is buying in Bear Creek, I think we got like $35,000, that range, $35,000 in either reductions or credits or additional work done on the house that really didn't have to be done. So remember, whether you're thinking about buying next week or next year, all my contact information is in the description box below. Reach out however you prefer. Zoom face-to-face meetings are always the best so we can just get to know each other a little bit. But whenever you're looking to move, I look forward to helping you make that transition to Aledo as smooth as possible.